Hello Bling crew, welcome back. It is Shannon with Bling Your Things, and today I'm going to show you how to rhinestone a license plate frame. Rhinestoning a license plate frame is probably one of the easier projects to do, especially if you're starting out. So to prep this, I already sanded it. I just used 120 grit sandpaper. So when you sand, make sure you go in different directions. You want to give the metal surface like different directions of texture for the Bob Smith two-part epoxy to adhere to. Then after you sand, make sure you clean the surface with alcohol. I'm just using a 70% isopropyl rubbing alcohol, and then I'm just going to put it on a paper towel. Then I'm going to go ahead and clean it off. And then another thing to mention, when I sanded, I only sanded the top surface. I'm not going to rhinestone the edge of the frame. That part is not going to show when I put it on my car, as well as I know on my vehicle I have kind of like a low clearance at the top. So if I put rhinestones there, I'm afraid that the frame won't fit on there correctly. But you can rhinestone the edges, just make sure you check your car what kind of spacing you have before you do that. Then for rhinestones, I'm going to use two different sizes. I'm going to create like a checkerboard pattern. I'm going to use size SS20 in our diamond cut flatbacks in the color Sapphire. And then I'm also going to use size SS10 also in the diamond cut flatbacks in the color Sapphire. Then I also have my wax tip rhinestone pickup tool. For adhesive, I'm going to use Bob Smith Slow Cure two-part epoxy. Since it's going to be outside and exposed to the elements, I want to use a hard adhesive that can withstand being outside. Then to apply the epoxy, I'm going to use a silicone, it's like a nail tool. I just started using these because it's reusable and I'm not using a bunch of the toothpicks anymore. And to me, it's less waste and they clean up really nicely. Then I'm going to use the heart-shaped rhinestone shaker trays that we just added these to our shop as well. There is 3 different sizes. The pink one is the large size, and then the teal one that you see, that's the small one, and then there's one in the middle, a medium-sized one, that is purple. So they come in a set of 3. And I like these two because on both sides of the container it has the rigid edges, and when I'm done they have a little lock on the top that I can put the lid back on and securely store away the rhinestones. I will post links in the description down below with all of the products that we used in today's video on our website, blingyourthings.com. We do have the license plate frames. You can buy it as a single frame or as a pair if you would like to do the front and the back of your car. And we have over 40 different colors of flatback colors that you can design your frames with. So I already mixed the epoxy and I did put some mica powder in that. I'll show you that process in a few minutes. So for my design, I'm going to create like a checkerboard pattern between using the 2 sizes. So I'm going to alternate between using the SS20s and the SS10s, and I'm going to put like the SS10 in between the SS20 so that I'm kind of creating like a checkerboard or like a nestled pattern. You could also do a honeycomb pattern or a scatter pattern if you prefer. It's really up to you, whatever kind of design that you'd like to do. I wanted to try this one because the stones fit nicely. So if you're not sure how it will look, kind of just try it out. Lay your stones down on the license plate frame before you commit to putting them into the adhesive and see if that's what you're gonna like. And I'd recommend, like I said earlier, to use the 2-part epoxy. You need adhesive that is going to, when it cures, it's going to be hard. If you use like a super tight or fusion tack, those are soft glues and they won't hold up being outside. So I live in Florida. We're exposed to extreme heat throughout the year, and I want this to last. And especially if I'm going to do this for a customer, I don't want to give it to a customer and then 2, 3 months down the road, the rhinestones are falling off because the glue's melting from the heat outside. So once I get my first couple rows of rhinestones laid on what I want my pattern to look like, I'm going to start just using the same size, and then I'll go back in and I'll fill in the SS10s. And just make sure too that you're going back and checking that your rhinestones aren't sliding. When you first start using the Bob Smith 2-part epoxy, it is rather liquid, so your rhinestones will slide around until the epoxy starts to harden a little bit. So just make sure you're going back and double checking that your stones are staying in line and staying in place where you want them to be. And if they shift, you still have time to move them. Um, just go back and make the changes as you're going. And I do like to start in the middle of these just so that I can kind of gauge where or have more control over how it's going to look when I get to the end. And then I'm not going to rhinestone around the part where the screws are going to adhere back to or adhere to the car. I'm just going to put it on the areas that you're going to see once it's over the license. And the tool that I'm using right here, this is the silicone nail tool. I just started using these. I really like these because they're reusable, where I was using like toothpicks or like lip gloss applicators before. I wanted something that was a little bit more environmentally friendly, and that I didn't have to keep repurchasing the item. I kind of felt like it was wasteful to use those. I mean, the toothpicks are fairly cheap, but even still, I'm creating garbage that I have to throw away. So with this, um, it cleans up really nice. All I got to do is use a paper towel and all of it comes off really clean. So then I'll go ahead and I will speed this up a little bit just so that I can show you the progress. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that you're notified of new tutorial videos. And if you do have requests of a project that you would like to see, you can leave those in the comments as well, and I will try to make them as I have time. So to mix the Bob Smith 2-part epoxy, it is a 1-to-1 mixture. I like to use small amounts. I can always make more batches. I don't like to waste it. So I start with like a pea-size amount of each size, and then I'm using Baltic Day mica powder. I'm just going to sprinkle in a little bit of it, and then I'll mix the mica powder into the 2-part epoxy. You don't need a lot. I like the Baltic Day ones in the little containers. I can just store those away very easy. I the ones in like the little Ziploc packages, I feel like they get all over the place. I spill it, I end up with it all over the place. So these little containers are great. So you just mix it. You need to mix it for about 30 to 45 seconds so that it's well mixed, and that you're also getting the mica powder mixed in there. Using the mica powder will help color the background of your surface, and it's going to help blend in any gaps that you have between your rhinestones as you're laying them. When you're spreading out the epoxy, you can just start with small dabs of it, and then use the silicone tool to spread it out. You don't want it to be thick. You want to have thin layers. You don't want the epoxy, just like with any other type of adhesive, you don't want it to ooze out around the sides of your stone. If it does that, then you're going to end up with cloudy stones. So you just want enough to where it's going to lock the stone to the surface, and the adhesive will come up slightly around the edges of the rhinestones. And then I will wash this before I put it on my vehicle. So I'm going to let it cure for a whole 72 hours before I go ahead and wash it. And when I wash it, I'm just going to use regular soap and water. I'm not going to soak it. I'm just going to, put soap on it, and then I'm going to use like a little nail brush, and I'm going to go ahead and clean it off. If you do find that you have adhesive that's gotten around the sides of your stones, I'd recommend either taking them off if you can't clean it off, because the epoxy is rather hard to remove after it has dried. So I'm just going to finish the rest of this first row and then I'm going to work up the sides. So when you're doing this too, make sure when you get to the ends that you kind of plan out your spacing so that when you start to do the sides, you can connect your pattern together. Since this one is kind of, think of it like going at diagonal lines, you want to make sure that your diagonal lines end up to where you can connect the side back together so that it looks seamless. You may need to use some of the smaller stones just because the spacing isn't going to fit with using the size SS20s. So it's okay to not follow the pattern exactly and use, maybe 2 or 3 of the size SS10s on the edge instead of using the SS20s because you don't want to cram the stones in there. So then I'm just going to go ahead and finish up this side and then I will do the other side the same way as well. And then the top part I'm going to do the same way as the bottom, except for this part is about twice as thick as the other part. So I'm going to end up with 6 rows instead of 3. And that's why it's important to make sure that when you get to the edges, you line up your pattern so that you can continue it and it looks seamless as you go around the corners. So then I'm just going to go ahead and finish up this last section. I think altogether it took me just over an hour to complete the whole plate, maybe like an hour and 10 minutes. And the license plate frames make great gifts for any kind of special occasion, for last minute birthday gifts, bridal showers, Christmas, pretty much anything that you need. And like I said, they are fairly quick to make, so you could make them as a last minute gift as well. And here is what the finished license plate will look like. It will definitely add some custom sparkle to your vehicle that people will be sure to notice. And then here are all the products that we used in today's video. They are available on our website, blingyourthings.com. We used the diamond cut flatbacks in size SS20 and in SS10. We used our heart-shaped shaker trays. Again, these come in a set of 3. There's 3 different sizes. The pink is the large, the green is the small one, and then there is a purple one not shown. These are great because they have little notches on the side that click it together for easy storage when you're done. And then we use the Bob Smith 30-minute slow cure epoxy. We use Baltic Day mica powder in the color denim. And we sanded with 120 grit sandpaper. And we used our silicone nail tool as well as the wax tip rhinestone pickup tool. Thanks again for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous week.